Welcome to Adventures in Coffee, a podcast by Caffeine Magazine, sponsored by iFinker and Oatly.
In this 6-episode series, Jules and I are going to explore the world of coffee for those people that are curious about what's in their daily cup.
I'm Jules Walker, a proud East Londoner, a cycling advocate, and a secret instant coffee lover.
Boom! I'm Scott Bentley. I'm the founder of Caffeine Magazine and a purist when it comes to the pour-overs.
Now, Scott, I know in your very esteemed magazine that you do these coffee cocktails, and you always use these sort of wild and far out coffees for them, like geishas, which is cool, don't get me wrong, but I do always end up kind of thinking to myself, why don't you just use instant coffee for these? Because, you know, it's quicker. It's
What? No. Stop there.
Oh, I've touched a nerve.
I mean, the thing is, you know, this is about using great ingredients to produce really great flavours. I mean, you wouldn't see someone like Heston Blumenthal or Gordon Ramsay saying, and for this dish, pick up your cheapest, gristliest, bargain basement, out-of-date piece of steak, are you? It's all about, you know, good flavours make good products. That's why I would never use instant.
Yeah, but then you just sound like a bit of a coffee snob when you're saying that.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to disagree with you. I am a coffee snob.
Okay then, Snob Scott. Our dear listener is probably wondering what on earth we're going to be doing in this episode. Well, it's going to be this. We are going to put to the test whether regular people, not coffee snobs like yourself, Scott, prefer speciality or instant coffee. We need to find out, are the coffee snobs just being snobs for the sake of it?
Oh, I love the way you're playing this, Jules. It's like, oh, I just don't understand all this stuff. You know what good coffee is and what bad coffee is. I've sent you great coffees and you've adored them.
You can come to my house and you can open up my kitchen cupboards and you will find specialty coffee in there. But you will also find some very bog standard instant coffee, because I believe that there is a place for this in the coffee world.
Nicely put.
Thank you. I try. Okay then, Scott. Let's unpack this from a completely technical point of view. Why is a cup of instant coffee lower grade or less superior than a cup of specialty coffee?
So specialty coffee is graded as this high quality coffee because, you know, the beans have been really cared for. Only the best ones are picked and they're all sorted and separated. And essentially what you're getting is the cream of the crop. Now, when all of these coffee beans from all around the world get sorted and graded, there are a load at the bottom, a load for the floor sweepings, which aren't really good for much. And so what they do is that they turn this stuff into instant coffee. Now, the way in which they make instant coffee is essentially they brew up coffee in the same way as you would brew up coffee and I would, and then they fire this coffee with a really fine spray into a super dry hot container, and all of that water that they brew the coffee with evaporates, and what you're effectively left with is this dust or granules, and that's what you get in your tin. You're just getting brewed coffee that's been kind of all the water taken out.
So, to the experiment. Now, we're not going to be testing a cup of instant versus a cup of speciality here today.
Yeah, because we kind of almost did a bit of this experiment in the last episode with Mama V. We had the really gorgeously expensive and fantastically flavourful geisha, and we pitted that against, again, a good coffee, but one which was obviously lower grade.
And we know how that ended. Mama V ended up liking the really super expensive speciality stuff.
That's because your mum's got really expensive taste.
She's a classy lady. This is very true.
So coffee in a cup comparison, I mean, there's just no contest here.
Absolutely agree with you on that one, Scott.
Yeah, so this is really more about coffee as an ingredient. Now, using coffee as an ingredient is a very different job to just tasting a really wonderful cup of coffee. It has to interact with other flavours and other things.
And that's why in this episode, we tested out instant versus speciality in a dessert.
Okay, Jules, what desserts are we talking about today?
We have coffee ice cream and that classic delicious Italian dessert, tiramisu.
Yum, yum, yum. Anyway, let's cut now to the day we actually made these desserts. But just before that, let's have a quick word from our sponsors. Jules, you remember when a cup of coffee used to cost about £2?
Those were the days. Yeah, I'm paying about, £3.50 for a flat white now.
But the funny thing is that farmers aren't getting paid anymore.
Oh, so I'm paying more for my coffee, but the farmer's not getting the benefit?
No, but partly that's inflation, isn't it? Cafe costs go up, price of their milk, the price of their electricity and their costs, they go up, but farmers' costs go up as well. And yet the farmer still gets paid about the same.
How am I supposed to know if the farmer's been stiffed or not if I'm paying more for the coffee at this end?
The only real way to find out is if it's, I think, verified. You can find out by scanning the QR code how much the farmer got paid.
So, if you want truly transparent coffee, ask your roaster to get their coffee I think are verified. The next day we were in our respective kitchens making our desserts, the tiramisu and the coffee ice cream. So, Scott, I was the one making the tiramisu and getting everything...
Whoa. Who was making the tiramisu? Was it Ian, your boyfriend, the professional chef, making the tiramisu while you were keeping your seat warm?
Yes, it was Ian making the tiramisu in our kitchen, so it was a collaborative effort. Anyway, let's go on to Ian.
You're holding the microphone, Jules.
Anyway, moving on, here is Ian talking about the very short list of ingredients you need to make a tiramisu.
You're going to need some mascarpone cream, some eggs, some sugar, some Zawardi or ladies' fingers biscuits, and some coffee.
Now, you can listen to all of the audio of Ian making this tiramisu at the very end of this episode.
Oh, come on, Jules, let's just get to the meat of it all.
Okay, once we were done, we had 2 tiramisus. One was made with a speciality coffee, which was Uncle Funka from Extract Roasters, and the other was made with a cheap supermarket instant coffee.
Yep, so these are 2 identical tiramisus. The only difference is the coffee used.
Correct. So then, once the tiramisus were done, we had to find some taste testers.
And thankfully, that's where our lovely producer James came in. He had 2 friends quite local to Jules, and that was Vas and Evelyn. So, Jules, why did we choose Vas and Evelyn?
Well, we were not looking for tasting experts. We were looking for what everyday coffee drinkers, not the snobs like you, Scott, want in their desserts. And in fact, we learnt that Evelyn doesn't even drink coffee, which was perfect.
Well, yeah, maybe perfect for you. The coffee nerds, we're not going to be using those guys in these particular experiments. We kind of want to find out more what you, dear listener, is most likely to want in your coffee-flavoured desserts.
So a few hours later, Ian cycled over the 2 tiramisus to Vas and Evelyn.
Hang on, Ian cycled over... So Ian's made your tiramisu.
Yes.
Ian's cycling the tiramisu over.
Yes.
What role are you playing in this episode, Jules?
I was overseeing everything.
I think this should just be sort of just me and Ian. Sorry, I keep talking over you. Carry on.
Back to the point of the episode, we had the 2 tiramisus. Now, we labelled them up as tiramisu A, which was the speciality version, and B, which was the instant version. Now, all we told Vas and Evelyn is there was a difference between the tiramisus, but they have no idea that it is 2 different types of coffee inside of the desserts. Vas and Evelyn, hello.
Hello.
Hello, really nice to meet you.
Are you both coffee lovers by any chance?
I'll let Evelyn answer that question.
I don't drink coffee at all, so this is going to be interesting. I'm a big tea drinker and I'm a bit of a tea snob, but don't drink coffee.
And what about you, Vas? How's your relationship with the brown bean?
You'll be pleased to know that I do like coffee.
Excellent.
I had a nice latte on the way back from my run this morning. I do occasionally buy nice coffee and grind
Occasionally? No, every day. There's a ritual. Every single day. There has to be a very particular coffee. We have to walk a very long way to get specific beans that are ground by hand every single day.
Have you got your 2 tiramisus in front of you?
Yeah, they are currently wrapped up, so we might have to do a bit of unwrapping.
Yeah, exactly. You want the unboxing, right? So I'm uncling filming A.
I also, admittedly, after not drinking coffee, I'm not a big fan of tiramisu.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe I just haven't tried it in a while, and I've been told I just haven't been having a good tiramisu. So maybe, yeah, this is the beginning.
Right, we are now armed with spoons.
We'll both go for A first.
This is the specialty coffee version.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm reserving judgment, actually. This is really good.
Yay, we've converted Evelyn to coffee.
It doesn't feel like it's too strong a coffee flavour. It feels like it's a nice aftertaste hit rather than overwhelming.
Maybe this is a good time, now you've had a good taste here, to move over to B.
Yeah.
And this is the instant coffee version.
This is a lot creamier.
That's stronger.
Is it?
I feel like I can really taste the coffee in this one.
Tastes more like Nescafes. It's more instanty.
And how do you feel about that, Vas?
So looking down at it, there is like a pool of coffee at the bottom where my spoon was, whereas the other one is like totally dry. I mean, I'm like eating the coffee in spoonfuls. Mm-hmm. It's actually really good coffee.
So hold on, Vas, I've just got to ask that again for the benefit of Scott. You're enjoying the taste of the pool of coffee that you are getting from Tiramisu B.
Yes, what I would describe as a puddle of coffee that is at the bottom of Tiramisu B, when I put to my mouth, tastes more like these nice floral coffees that I enjoy.
Some spoonfuls of tiramisu have been consumed. I think the time has come to ask of A and B, which one do you prefer?
I think for me, it's probably A because I could eat probably like a whole tiramisu of A because it's not too overwhelming on the coffee front.
And Vas, how do you feel?
I'm so torn.
You're torn.
I think if I sat down for tiramisu and what I wanted was a tiramisu, I would choose A.
Tiramisu A was made with the speciality coffee, and B was the one that had the instant coffee in it.
Which I liked later on.
So A appears to be the overall winner then of the tiramisu.
Evelyn and Vas, thank you so much for sampling these tiramisus. I'm afraid that I wasn't able to taste these, so I think I'll just have to savour the sweet taste of victory instead.
Oh, man.
So, Jules, first round to me. Specialty coffee wins the tiramisu.
Yeah, that's all good. But remember, there was still one more test to go, and that was your coffee ice cream, wasn't it, Scott?
Yep, it was. So while Ian was making your tiramisu, I was making my own coffee ice cream. But to be honest with you, it's so ridiculously simple, you don't need a professional chef to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, how did you make them?
There's a link in the show notes, or you can fast forward to the end of the episode and hear me yabber on about it. But essentially, it's 3 ingredients in a bowl and whisk it together.
Cool. And what coffees did you use for your ones then?
Yes, same as yours. It was the natural Colombian coffee from Extract, the Uncle Funka, and a basic instant coffee powder from the supermarket. So I hopped in my car and I drove to my friends Will and Neil and dropped off these coffee ice creams to them in these little freezer bags.
Cool. And why did we choose Will and Neil for this?
Okay, I've known Will and Neil for a long time now. They're very old friends. Will is not a professional chef, taste expert. He's a regular guy. He's just got a really good palate. I mean, he's actually been on MasterChef. So he really understands food. He really understands flavour. He loves coffee, but he isn't an expert in that.
Okay.
And Neil, I've worked with Neil for a long time, and he just loves a great flat white.
All right, Scott. So you'd already won with the speciality coffee in the tiramisu desserts, and you were so confident that you were going to win with your speciality coffee ice cream as well. We decided that if you were to actually lose this competition, you were going to sit down and enjoy a whole cup of room temperature instant coffee, weren't you?
I believe we had that discussion at some point.
Now,
Don't remember actually agreeing to it though.
but your confidence was that it was oozing through with this competition.
My confidence was seeping through my pores.
Filtering through your pores. Anyway, before we get to the next part of our experiment, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Okay, Jules, pop quiz.
Oh, I like that.
Just to see if you were listening, go way back to an earlier episode.
Yeah.
Do you remember, using cow juice, how much CO2 is in your flat white?
I really want to say that I do remember.
Did the cat eat your homework?
I've got 2 cats. They completely destroyed it. They shredded it.
It was 250 grams.
Oh, so before I get sacked from the show, I just want to say, do your bit for the planet and switch to Oatly. Bye.
I don't even remember myself, actually.
Then you're a terrible co-host as well.
Hey, Will. Hey, Neil. How you both doing?
Good, thanks.
Glorious.
For the benefit of our dear listener, Will, could you just introduce yourself?
Okay, my name's Will. I'm a tailor.
And you spent many years on Savile Row, if I remember rightly, but also you were on MasterChef. Now, tell us a little bit about your coffee drinking habits.
My coffee habits are filter, either V60 or AeroPress. Probably drink between, 3 or 4 cups a day?
But I know you're definitely a specialty coffee drinker, Will.
Yep, very much so, yep.
Now, Neil, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Neil. I'm the owner and founder of Bowman Cycles. So I guess I design bikes for a living.
Tell our listener about your coffee habits.
In terms of coffee, that'll be 4 or 5 flat whites a day.
Guys, ice creams. You have 2 in front of you, labelled A and labelled B, and I want you to both dig into that first one for me.
This one's the speciality coffee version.
Okay, just had 2 spoonfuls.
What are your thoughts, Will?
It's a perfectly acceptable average coffee ice cream.
Thanks. Well, Will reckons it's a bit meh, so
No, it's fine. It's actually, it's nice, mate. It's a perfectly decent coffee ice cream.
Will. Stop digging.
Oh, Will, it doesn't sound like you were particularly impressed. Maybe Neil, do you want to take a bite?
Okay, so Neil has just dropped his spoon and is pulling quite the face.
Oh my God. I'm not trying to poison you, Neil, I promise. Give it to me gently. What do you think?
It's got the flavour of cheap coffee chocolate. The sort of thing you'd leave at the bottom of a bag of Revels, put it that way.
Oh, wow.
Man alive. Are you saying, is this on the same par as maybe, the leftover coffee chocolates in the bottom of a Quality Street tin or something like that?
It's not that good.
Oh,
It's got the flavours of what coffee was like before I drank coffee.
Oh, that's a burn. Okay, guys, I think you've hurt my pride quite severely already. I've got a meh and a much worse than meh so far. So, Will, if you would be so kind, kind being the operative word here, to taste the second one that we have, B.
And this one's the instant coffee.
that one's better. That one's much better.
Can you talk us through it?
Yeah.
Stronger coffee flavour. Lingers on the mouth more. Slightly more bitter, which is nicer, I think. The coffee is more prevalent. It's at the forefront of the palate as opposed to the other one where it just gets washed out by the cream.
Neil, I would love it if you would be able to dig into the second tub there and let us know your thoughts.
One moment, please, caller. It definitely doesn't have the acrid burn the back of your mouth flavour that the other one did. That's something I'd actually will probably quite likely finish the rest of the tub of.
Oh, wow.
Could you not have dropped a bigger one round?
Well, I can give you the recipe, mate. It's very easy to make. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your critique of my handiwork. I've got to say, I'm a bit disappointed. The first one, A, that you had was made with speciality coffee. And yes, the second one was made with instant coffee. And it seems like something you both preferred. Jules, it looks like you might have beaten me on this one.
But I'm I'm super surprised.
I think what I've managed to do here is to find 2 taste testers who absolutely have no taste at all. Okay, Jules, before you start dancing around the room, I think a lot of this is down to the fact the ice cream's obviously very, very cold, and that affects how we taste it.
I mean, it does go to show that cold things ruin people's palates, which is kind of fairly well known.
I think one of the interesting things here about both coffee and ice creams is they operate on the extremes of your taste buds. The way in which your taste buds work the best is at body temperature. You'll notice that things taste their most potent at body temperature. And then when something's either very hot or very cold, it kind of like blunts that. Now with ice cream, you would usually load it with sugar. So what you're getting is the sweetness. And with coffee, if you drink it too hot, you basically just don't really taste much of it. So I'm going to go with that. So the only reason my ice cream is so terrible is because it's cold.
That's it. Just temperature, nothing else.
Nothing else.
I definitely say I prefer the one made with instant coffee. It works better as an ice cream for sure.
Gentlemen, thank you again for your time.
Thanks for the invite, mate.
Absolute pleasure.
So, Scott, what did we learn here today with this experiment?
Well, first off, your boyfriend's a far better chef than I am.
That's very, very true. He's a better chef than me as well. But we also learned that sometimes coffee snobs can get it quite wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to unpack here because obviously I don't want to admit defeat in any way. But different coffees have very different flavours and work in different scenarios.
Yeah, and I guess there's also the different variables at play as well. So, for instance, we learned that temperature actually really matters and has a huge effect on how it will taste. So the tiramisus that got taken to Vas and Evelyn, they left my fridge cold. And by the time Ian had cycled over to them, they were pretty much at almost room temperature when they would have been delivered to them. And, you know, the speciality ended up being the thing that tasted better in the tiramisu.
When you drink coffees and when you taste coffees, even from when you first brew them till the fact that they're almost stone cold, they go on a journey. You know, they change flavour as they cool down, as different parts of that coffee become more prominent. And I think what we've learned more than anything here is that sugar makes everything taste great.
Well, Vaz did love that delicious sweet puddle of instant that was floating around at the bottom of the other tiramisu.
Yeah, Jules, just to unpack a little bit there, I think the interesting thing is people aren't used to having those more nuanced coffee flavours when they're tasting a coffee flavoured thing. So, you know, when you've got like a coffee chocolate or coffee ice cream, you have an idea of what you think it should taste like.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more of a sort of generic taste of coffee, if that's the right way to put it. I mean, if I'm digging into a tub of Quality Street and I want to get to the coffee flavoured ones, I'm not looking to have an explosion of papaya and mango in my mouth while I'm just eating a bog standard chocolate coffee confectionery thing. I just want that smooth, kind of bland taste of coffee just running through it. I don't need all of those fancy flavours, and people aren't expecting that from something like just a piece of chocolate, you know?
And why anyone wants to go and find that coffee chocolate is beyond me. So I love you dearly, Jules, but you are weird.
You're just not ready.
But I do agree with you. You're not expecting to taste that coffee flavour from like a geisha coffee when you're eating that chocolate at the bottom of the Sainsbury's tin, which should have been thrown out months ago.
You're missing out.
Jules, roll the credits.
This podcast was produced by James Harper, the creator of coffee podcast Filter Stories, and he also writes and plays the piano music that you hear in the background.
Thank you to Vas and Evelyn. Thank you to Neil and Will. You can find Neil at bowmancycles.com and Will at willadamsbespoke.com.
Now, if you like the show, please subscribe on your podcast app. You can also help others find the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Castbox.
You can follow on social media me at Caffeine Mag,
where you'll be posting your video of you drinking that room temperature cup of instant coffee.
Okay.
You can also follow me, Jules, at Lady Velo, and of course James Harper, our wonderful producer, at Filter Stories Podcast.
Our next episode is going to be our last. Sad face.
And the next episode is going to be something quite different because it's my personal story that I'm going to be sharing with you. I'm going to be talking about growing up to Caribbean immigrant parents in East London, living with depression, and how this all comes together through the power of Coffee Cycle Saturdays.
Thanks very much for tuning in, and if you stay listening, you'll be able to hear how we made the coffee ice cream and the tiramisu.
All right, Scott, we're in our kitchens and you are going to be making the no-churn ice cream. Take us through how you're going to do it.
Okay, this ice cream recipe calls for either 4 espresso shots or 2 tablespoons of instant coffee powder. We're going to be running through this pretty quick, but don't worry, the full recipe will be in the show notes.
Okay, so you've got your espresso shots and you've got your instant coffee. What's next?
I've got 300 millilitres of double cream. I'm just going to put this in a mixing bowl. Mm-hmm. The next thing I'm going to be putting in is 175 grams of condensed milk. And now I'm going to take my coffee and I'm going to put that in. All I've got to do now is whisk it. And that's now ready to put into a container, and then we just literally slam it in the freezer for around 10 hours.
Okay, hi Scott, I'm Ian, I'm in Jools' kitchen and I'm going to teach you guys how to make a tiramisu.
Hey, sounds great. Just for the benefit of our listener, can you just introduce yourself?
I'm a professional chef. Not been a professional chef all my life, it's been a recent career change, and I currently work as a pasta chef at Popham's in Hackney.
Okay, Ian, why don't you take from the top, what ingredients am I going to need to make this?
You're going to need some mascarpone cream, some eggs, some sugar, some Zavarwadi or lady's fingers biscuits, and some coffee.
Sounds great. Are you going to be doing any twists to this typical Italian dish?
Some recipes add alcohol, a bit of brandy, a bit of liqueur wine. That I've decided to keep it out.
Yeah, that's probably best. We don't want our taste testers getting all drunk.
Okay, Scott, let's dive into it. So the first step is to brew the coffee, because you want the coffee to be cold when you dip the biscuits in. We've only got a Mocha Pot, but I've made about 300 mils of the coffee, which I did in 2 batches.
For those that don't know, can you just explain what is a Mocha Pot?
It's that strange metal contraption that you often find in your rental apartment when you're on holiday in Italy. You put the water in the bottom, you put the coffee in the middle, and then you pop it on the stove and it goes plop, 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 plop.
Great, so you've got your mug of coffee. What next?
So the coffee's brewed and you've put it into some trays so it cools down.
All right, so now I've got the microphone right over the whisker and with my professional chef Ian doing his thing. But Ian, what is it that you're going to be doing right now?
I'm going to be whisking up the egg whites. So the next stage now is to take our 4 egg yolks, add a teaspoon of vanilla extract and 100 grams of caster sugar. And then we're going to use the electric whisk again, and we're going to whisk those until they go all nice and light and fluffy. There we go. That's beautiful.
So you've got 4 egg whites beaten together. You've got 4 egg yolks beaten together with some vanilla and sugar.
The next stage is adding the mascarpone cream into the beaten egg yolks and sugar.
Okay, great. And then next?
We've got our egg whites and we're going to fold those into the mascarpone egg yolk mixture. And all I'm going to do is very gently just cut through and then lift up and over. And you just keep doing that until all of the egg whites incorporated. You want it to be lovely and smooth and light.
Ian, this is sounding absolutely delicious.
So the next step is to actually assemble the dessert. So we've got our custard, we've got our coffee, which has cooled down nicely, and we now need to take our Zavarwadi biscuits and soak them in the coffee, put them in our dish, and then put a layer of custard over, and then another layer of soaked biscuits, and then another layer of custard.
So it's like sweet lasagna then?
Can we rename tiramisu Sweet Lasagna? That sounds like the name of a band, actually.
There's Italians all over the place going, no.
What goes on the very top? Should you finish it off with a layer of cream or a layer of biscuits?
A layer of the cream, and then that's topped with a dusting of cocoa powder. You must then pop it in the fridge for about at least 4 hours.
Oh, right. Okay, so all of the flavours need to meld together.
Yeah.
Ian, thank you so much for your help on this.
It's okay. It's my pleasure. It's been great. Thank you.
Okay, so the recipes are in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.